Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're at in the world. Welcome to our newest webinar on the inventory add-on feature in Vtiger CRM. This is hosted by myself, Matthew Costello, and my colleague, Josh Rich.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Matthew and I are really excited to be here, and we really appreciate you all taking time out of your day or your night to join us. So we look forward to spending the next hour with you.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. Yeah, we're really excited to be talking about this feature. It can really help build out your inventory management in the system beyond what's currently possible without the add-on available. So let's get started and jump into the agenda here real quick. So here's what we'll be discussing today. I'll first be going over what is the inventory add-on itself. I'll then jump into the recommended process flow for using the inventory add-on alongside the existing modules and features that are already available in the CRM for inventory management. And then I'll jump into a new feature we just released called stock management. If you're not familiar with it, it replaced our old way of how we were updating product stock automatically within the system. So it allows you to manage which step in your inventory management process updates the stock for each of your products. And I'll be going over that a bit more in the next slide, and then Josh even more so in the live demonstration. Beyond that, I'll be going over into each new module that's added through this add-on, and then I'll pass it off to Josh for the live demonstration, and we'll end it off with a 15-minute Q&A session. I do want to mention here, we do have two other members of our team in this webinar right now, Pratim and Sarab. So if you have any questions throughout the course of this webinar, feel free to also ask them. Please do use the Q&A option that's at the bottom of your screen, not the chat option. That allows our team to review your questions and send in the answer through that format. So what is the inventory add-on? So it enables companies to automate their order and purchasing processes. It automates stock adjustment when an order is received or delivered. Now this actually adds 8 new modules to the system once you download it, and it is available in the add-on store in the system. So if you go into menu, you should see the add-on button in the bottom left-hand corner there. Go in there and you can add the inventory add-on. It is only $50 a month, and it really adds a lot to your process when you're handling your inventory through the purchasing and selling process all the way to when the customer receives it, from the very beginning to when you purchase items from a vendor. So the 8 modules that are added are receipt notes, bills, delivery notes, credit notes, the sales return, purchase return, stock adjustment, and stock reservation. And I'll be going over each one of these a bit more in the slides, and Josh will show you how they function within the CRM itself. So before that, let's go over the process flow we recommend following within the system. So the first one is purchasing items from the vendor, and the second one is selling items to a customer. So the first one, you of course want to start it off with creating a purchase order. This is already available in the system, but that alongside the payment module are both already available. But what's added here is the receipt note module, which we would recommend creating after the purchase order. This allows you to track the items that are shipped from the vendor until they are received by your company itself. And it allows you to compare what's been received to what was actually purchased. This can be done if you receive it in a full shipment at once, or you can even break it up into partial shipments when you're creating the receipt note as well to make sure you're properly tracking what's being received from the vendor. From there, another new module that's added is the bills module. You could create the bill after the receipt note just to know what is owed to the vendor for the items that you've received, and then the payment record would be created after that to actually track the payment that was made to the vendor, which updates and then updates the bill automatically, and then follows that process backwards. The sales process is similar. You of course start with the sales order. From there, to track the items that you are shipping out and then being received by the customer that purchased them, you'd create the delivery note, follows the same structure as the receipt note. And then from there, the invoice for the amount owed for those items, and then the payments record itself. Our payments module does integrate with multiple payment software applications, such as PayPal, Authorize.net, and Stripe, that can allow you to automate even receiving payments from the customer once those are integrated. And if you're interested in knowing more about those, we have a lot of documentation on it on help.vtiger.com that can help you walk through setting up those integrations and even more on these individual modules. Because right now we are just focusing on the inventory add-on modules. Anything beyond that, such as the sales orders or purchase orders, those are already available in the inventory section of the CRM. So we won't be going into full detail on those as much. So from there, I kind of want to talk about the new feature that was added called stock management. This is available in the settings of your CRM. It is not actually directly a part of the inventory add-on, but we wanted to talk about it because it actually relates to it and can help how you affect updating your quantity and stock field and products automatically through actions you are performing in the CRM. So every time you receive an order from the vendor or deliver a product to the customer, the quantity and stock field of the respective product gets updated. And that's what this feature helped accomplish. With this setting, you can modify which modules will affect the increase and decrease of your product stock. So before the inventory add-on, you would generally do that through sales orders or purchase orders or even invoices. This gives you additional options. So if you want to track items received or items shipped, and you could do it by receipt note and delivery note instead of the invoice or the sales order or purchase order. I do want to mention this also adds 3 new fields to the products module as well: available stock, incoming stock, and committed stock. And Josh will be going over those a lot more in his live demonstration very soon. So let's talk about the first module that you get with the inventory add-on, and that is receipt notes. This is one you saw me mention in the flow that was recommended with this add-on. So it is an internal document that's produced as a proof of goods received after inspecting delivery to process and match against your purchase orders, especially if you have a separate shipping department that would track what's being received from your vendor. They'd be able to create a receipt note, and you can track that to what was actually purchased. And then if there's a discrepancy between the two, you can contact the vendor to make sure that's rectified. Bills are what would follow the receipt note. They are generated from a purchase order, and we generally recommend doing so directly from the purchase order because it pulls in the information you need directly from that record that's created. And it's created to initiate payments to the vendors. So yeah, they are generally generated after receiving the ordered items. Again, this could vary depending on what industry you're in or how you approach purchasing items from vendors, but that's just the general approach we recommend and have built this around. So generally how this would go is you receive the item from the vendor, you would then update the purchase order status, and the receipt note would be sent or sent internally. Bill is created from the purchase order then, and then payment is created from the bill. The payment would then be fully completed, and the bill status is then automatically updated once that payment status is updated. So delivery notes are the next new module. This was also mentioned in the process flow I was talking about earlier. So it is a document that just accompanies a shipment of goods that lists the description and quantity of the goods delivered. This is one that would be sent to the customer to indicate that, okay, these items have been delivered, make sure that what is listed here was actually received, and then it can move forward if it's correct or incorrect. These are generally created off of the sales order, so you can pull in that information that's listed in the sales order into the delivery note directly if you just create this straight from the sales order record. The next one, and now we're going to get into some of these new modules that don't fall directly into the flow of purchasing or selling goods. They are used when needed. So the first one is a sales return, and it lets you track and manage the return of sold products from customers. So if you sell a product and say maybe you have a generous return policy and they realize they don't need the items and they want to return them, that's when or maybe they're defective, or maybe they were accidentally sent too many. So from there, they would want to return the items to you. You would go to the delivery note of the items that were delivered and then generate a sales return from there. It will pull in the information automatically. You would just list how many are being returned and the reason why. It can help you track when those were shipped and when they were received. Following that, a sales return, generally once the customer has returned an item, you do want to credit them or give them a refund for the amount of those items. That's where the credit notes module would come into play. So they would be used whenever that product is fully returned and generally when it's fully received, but again, that could depend on how your return policy works within your company. Then generally monetary credit would be allocated to the customer's account. So how this works is if you create a credit note and it's linked to an organization or a customer, from there, when future invoices are generated for them, you can apply those credits directly from the invoice to zero out the amount owed or partially zero it out depending on how many credits they have. It can also be used to just generate keep track of direct refunds that are given to the customer if they do not want to use credit notes or credit within the company. The next one is a purchase return. This actually is very similar to a sales return. A good process for this is specifically if maybe a customer sends back a defective product, and then you need to send that defective product again back to the vendor to receive a full refund back from them as well. You would then create a purchase return from the receipt note of those items that were first received from the vendor. And this will allow you to track the returns of those purchased products back to the vendors. So it records the products are returned, listing the description and quantity of the goods returned. And now we're getting into modules that are used even less frequently outside of the general flow. And these just offer additional options you can use if you want to, say, for example, adjust your stock in the system outside of what's normally available. So you may be familiar if you've created products in the system, you want to edit the quantity and stock field, you can just do so directly from the record. What if you enable this so it becomes available when you add in the inventory add-on, but you still need to enable it as a module. If you go into settings, modules, and enable stock adjustments, this will become then available within the products. So what happens is the adjust stock button, you can see it up here, will appear in products. This is how you will now adjust the stock for each individual product. So you just click the button, you can increase or decrease the amount for quantity and stock or defective stock, those fields. This allows you to keep a record of adjustments that were made and by who within each product record. You can also limit who has access to this through profile and role allowances in the system. So only the people you want to can have access to adjust the stock. On top of that, it should be noted that you will no longer be able to directly edit the quantity and stock field. The only way to adjust the stock once this is enabled is through the adjust stock button here, or even in the stock adjustments module that's added. And the final module is called stock reservations. This one's a bit self-explanatory on what it does. It allows you to reserve stock for a customer for a set amount of time. So say a customer reaches out, they want to reserve a product for a week, say, oh, I'm going to buy that in a week, set it aside for me. You can create this record in the stock reservations module. It will place those items, there's a stock reservation field in the products. You can set it to reserved. It'll place those available stock into the reserve stock field, and it will reserve it until the date you set. The nice thing about this is once this record is created, you can go into it very easily and cancel it to make the stock available again, or set it as ordered, or order and add a sales order directly to continue that sales process moving forward. So I will now be passing this off to Josh so we can begin walking through these in the CRM itself.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Okay, and you all should be able to see my screen now. I'm inside our Vtiger instance, and we are in the products module. So today during this demonstration, I am going to touch on all the different features and modules that Matthew mentioned, as long as going through both flows, whether purchasing or selling products. But to start with, I want to start with the products module, and specifically this computer monitor product is going to be the product that we're working with today. So we can see the three new fields that Matthew spoke of earlier. We have our available stock, our committed stock, and incoming stock. And then of course we have our quantity and stock as well. So our available stock field is going to be adjusted on automatically based on, it's basically going to be your quantity in stock minus your reserve stock minus your committed stock is going to be your available stock. All three of these fields are not, you're not able to manually edit them. They're all adjusted based on how you have your stock management settings set up in that module. So to see how these all work together, let's go into the stock management module here. It is in the settings page, so this is only accessible by admins on the account. And once entered, you can see how your quantity in stock, committed stock, and incoming stock is either going to increase or decrease based on your selections over here. So for our flow and for this demo, we are going to have the quantity in stock is going to increase when a purchase order is fully received. it's going to decrease when a sales order is fully delivered. Our committed stock is going to increase when a sales order is created and decrease when the sales order is fully delivered. And lastly, our incoming stock is going to increase once a purchase order is created and decrease once that purchase order is fully received. So jumping back to the slide that Matthew put up earlier, we're going to walk through each of these flows, starting with our purchasing flow. So we're going to create a purchase order. We're then going to generate a receipt note from that purchase order. Once that receipt note is marked as fully received, we're then going to generate a bill from the purchase order and then create a payment record to close out the bill. And then I'll touch on the second flow before I go into that as well. So starting off with our purchasing flow here, we are going to want to accomplish the first step, which is going to be creating a purchase order. So we're going to go into the purchase order module, and we are going to add a new purchase order. For both of the flows that I'm going to be demonstrating today, I'm basically going to be condensing this process down into about a 15-minute demonstration or so. But typically, these processes can take anywhere from days to weeks to sometimes even months, depending on your purchasing and selling processes within your organization. There's also going to be a lot of fields that I'm not going to fill out today just for the sake of time. So I'm really just going to fill in the mandatory fields and any fields that I feel are relevant to these flows. So starting with our purchase order creation, the first thing we're going to want to do is name our purchase order. I'm just going to name it webinar demo. And the next thing I'm going to want to do is select my vendor. So I'm working with a computer monitor product today, and I know that New Age Computers, our vendor, is our vendor that sells this product to us. I'm also going to mark this purchase order as new. And I'm going to skip over a lot of the other fields here. I need to just fill in some of these mandatory fields before I get down to our item details. Our billing and shipping address is copied from the vendor address. And then scrolling down to our item details, we now need to select the products that we're going to be purchasing. So we are going to be purchasing some computer monitors today, and we are going to be purchasing a quantity of 10. So once I click on save and generate this purchase order, when we jump back into our product here and refresh, we'll see that our incoming stock field has increased by 10. So this is based on our stock management settings. So once that purchase order is created, it lets us know that we have 10 of these products coming in for this product. Our quantity in stock and available stock is not going to be affected yet. So it's really just letting us know what we're expecting to receive regarding this product. The next step with this flow is once we receive those products from the vendor, we are going to generate a receipt note. So to generate a receipt note from the purchase order, we can click the three dots in the upper right-hand corner, and then we're going to click receipt note, and all of the relevant relationships are going to be pulled into this receipt note. So we have our related purchase order, our receipt date is going to be today, our item details down below, we can see that 10 computer monitors are being purchased and have been received, and we're going to mark this as received. So once we save our receipt note, if we go back to our product again, click on refresh, we'll see that our incoming stock has now gone down to 0, and our quantity in stock and available stock have increased by 10. So we can see how the automation of this can be really helpful, especially in just saving time and just keeping an accurate track of your quantity in stock and available stock as well. So the next step in this flow is going to be to generate a bill, and we are going to generate a bill from the original purchase order. So a bill is basically a payment that we need to make. It's money that we owe to our vendor or to anybody else that we might owe money to. We would create a bill record. So from our purchase order, the other thing I want to point out too is once we mark that receipt note as received, we can see that it automatically updated our purchase order to fully received, which also closed out the record as well. So even though this record is closed and marked as fully received, we can still generate a bill directly from this purchase order. So to do so, again, we're clicking the three dots in the upper right-hand corner, and we're going to click on bills. Again, because we're creating these records from other existing records, those relationships are maintained. So all of our really important data is already pulled in to fill out these fields. So I'm going to select a bill date as today and the due date as today as well. I'm going to mark this bill as just open for now. And we can see that we are, this bill is going to be for those 10 computer monitors. And we'll see our total down here. So once we click save on this bill, we have now generated our bill. The next step to this flow would be to create a payment record once we pay this bill. So we can see the status of this bill is set as open. Once we've made a payment to our vendor, we would then generate that payment record. So again, we can click on the three dots, select payments, and we can see the amount is pulled in already. So once we mark this as paid and click on save, we can see that it closed out our bill. It marked our bill as paid, and it also closed out the payment record and linked it to the bill as well. So that is our purchasing flow here. The next flow we're going to do is from a sales order to generating a delivery note once we deliver the products to our customer, generating an invoice so that we can charge our customer for our products, and then creating a payment record once we receive payment for that invoice to close out the invoice. So the first step in this flow is, of course, creating that sales order. So we are going to go to the sales order module, and we're going to click on add sales order up here. I'm also going to name this webinar demo. And as you can see with sales orders, there's lots of other relationships we can have. Sometimes a sales order might be generated from a quote or from a deal. So those relationships can be added in, or they will be automatically added in if they're generated from those records. For this sales order, though, I do want to add in our contact. So we're going to be selling this to Ernie Anastasio. And once I select Ernie, you can see his organization, the organization that Ernie belongs to is pulled in as well. This is important, especially later on when we're going to be issuing credit notes and invoices. We just want to maintain that relationship. So we want to make sure we add in our contact and organization. Also, if you received a purchase order and you're generating this sales order from a purchase order you received, you can add that in here. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to be filling in these mandatory fields. So for this purchase order, I'm going to select a status of new. I'll select a due date as tomorrow. And then scrolling down, I just need to fill out these mandatory fields. And also select our product. So we are going to be selling those 10 computer monitors to Ernie and to the organization Legends Forever. So we're going to select a quantity of 10, and we are ready to generate our sales order here. So once we click on save, and let's open up this sales order. We can see it has a status of new. If we go back to our product and click on refresh, our committed stock is going to increase by 10, which is basically saying that we've generated the sales order. We've committed 10 of our stock to Ernie from the Legends Forever organization. And we can see that our stock has now dropped to 100, even though our quantity in stock is still 110. So we still have 110 of these products in our warehouse, but 10 of those have been committed based on that sales order creation. So the next step is once we generate the sales order and we are ready to deliver this product to our customer, we would generate a delivery note. So we want to go back to our sales order here, and we want to generate a delivery note from our sales order. So we'll click on the three dots again, and we will select delivery note. And again, all of our relationships are pulled in. We'll set the delivery date as today. We're going to have the status of delivered. So sometimes you might, set it as shipped when you send it off, and then once it's actually, you get confirmation that it's been delivered, you would mark it as delivered. But we're just gonna mark it right as delivered. And when we scroll down, we can see that we are delivering 10 of our computer monitors. So once we click save here, what happens is our sales order gets closed out. It's marked as fully delivered, and we can see our delivery note relationship to the sales order as well. So going back to our products, if we refresh here, we're going to see our committed stock reduced down to 0. And now our quantity in stock is going to match our available stock of 100 because those items have left our warehouse and have been successfully delivered. The next step in the flow is going to be to generate an invoice. And we are going to create that invoice from the sales order. So let's go back and find our sales order here. And we are going to generate an invoice directly from the sales order. So again, this invoice is generated so that we are sending this off to our customer to receive payment for those products that we delivered. So we'll have the invoice date as today, and we'll just set the due date as today as well. We can see our contact has been pulled in along with the organization. So all those relationships are maintained. So this is a really great way to just save time by creating records from other records. That way you maintain those relationships and make sure that you can then later easily access them from one view as well. So with our invoice here, let's set the status of this invoice to new. We're just going to scroll down to the bottom here to our item details, where we see that we're generating this invoice for 10 computer monitors. Now, once we hit save on this invoice, we have generated our invoice. And let's open up that invoice there. So we can see it has a status of new. Once we receive payment for this invoice, the next step will be to generate a payment record to close out this invoice and mark it as paid. So once we receive payment, we're going to click on the 3 dots again, go down to our payments module, and we're gonna mark this as received. So this, once saved, is going to close out our invoice, mark it with a status of paid, and then you also see the payment record directly related to this invoice as well. So again, these are the 2 recommended flows. I want to go over a couple of different scenarios as well that might happen. One of those scenarios is, let's say out of those 10 computer monitors that I sold to Ernie from the Legends Forever organization, let's say 2 of them arrived and they're damaged. So Ernie would like to return those items to me. So I would want to create a sales return record. So we are going to create the sales return record from the original delivery note. So let's find the delivery note here. Go into the delivery note module. And we have our webinar demo delivery note. And we want to generate a sales return. So same thing again, we're going to click the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner and select sales return. We can see all of our relationships are pulled in again. We're going to mark this as accepted, this sales return. And when we scroll down to the bottom to our item details, we see our original delivered quantity of 10, and we have our return quantity. So let's say 2 of those were damaged. So we're just going to mark it just like that. We're returning 2 of them, and then we're going to select our return reason. Once we click on save here, we have now successfully generated our sales return. And when we go back to our product here and refresh, we're going to see that we have a defective stock now of 2. So we are in possession of these at this point, and we now know that we have a defective stock of 2. The next step, the next natural step in this is going to be to create a credit note for Ernie. We want to give him, a credit back to this customer to allow them to purchase other products again from us in the future. So we're going to issue that credit note from the original invoice that was created. So if we go back to our invoices module select our webinar demo. Again, this is closed out, but we can still create our credit notes from it. So we're going to select credit note. And you can see it's related to Ernie and the organization. This is important because later when we create another invoice, as long as it's related to this organization, we'll be able to apply that credit to it. So we're going to leave this with a status of open. We're going to scroll down to the bottom here. And for this credit note, it's going to pull in that original quantity of 10, but we just want to credit for for the 2 damaged products that we had before. So we're just going to select, we'll select unsatisfactory as our reason for this credit note. So once we click on save here, we have generated our credit note successfully. And now what I want to do is I want to show you how we can apply that credit note to invoices in the future for this organization or for this contact as well. So I'm just going to duplicate this invoice here just for the sake of time. And I'm going to webinar credit. We'll just leave the invoice date and the due date the same. It pulls in our sales order information, our contact, and we are going to have it be a new invoice. Scrolling down to the bottom, we have our item details. So we're going to change this to a quantity of 2. These are the 2 computer monitors that were damaged upon delivery. So we're just going to be reselling this this product back to the customer and then applying that credit note to this invoice. So once we click on save here, open up this invoice. And you can see now we have this apply credits option on this invoice. So to apply credits, we can simply just click on it. We can select the credit note that was applied. So we're going to choose this one here, and we're going to type in the amount to credit. So we're going to do the full credit of $521.50. And once we hit apply on this, if we go into the detail section of this invoice, if we go into full details here and scroll down, we're going to see the applied credits here of $521.50 and a balance of 0. So it zeroed out this invoice. So the next step would just be to mark this invoice manually as paid. In the future, we are going to make it possible so that when we apply credits and it zeroes out an invoice, we can update the status automatically. But for now, we need to manually apply that. So we've now successfully closed out our invoice and applied that credit from that customer and from that organization to our invoice. The last step in this entire flow here is going to be, we want to return those 2 defective products back to our vendor. So in order to do that, we want to create a purchase return record. And we're going to generate that purchase return record from our original receipt note. So when we find our receipt notes here, we're going to enter the receipt notes module. We'll select our webinar demo receipt note. And we want to just simply generate a purchase return by clicking on the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. We are going to just mark this as returned. And when we go down to the bottom here, again, it's going to pull in that original quantity from the receipt note. But we want to adjust this. So we want to have the return quantity be 2 for our 2 defective products that are going back. And then we want to mark those as damaged is the reason for the return. Once we click on save and go back to our products here, let's click on refresh, and we can see our defective stock has now reduced down to 0. So we've returned those 2 defective products back to our vendor. So again, just remember these are Vtiger's recommended flows on how to best handle your inventory. But as you can see with the stock management feature, there's other options as well. So we really recommend going into the stock management module and adjusting it so it makes the most sense for your business and for your processes of selling and purchasing products. The last two things I want to show is the stock adjustments and stock reservations module. So we can see here when we're landed on this product, before, if you've been a customer of ours for a while, until the stock adjustment module is enabled, you can click here to edit. But because I do have it enabled, it's going to throw us this error that the quantity in stock can only be adjusted by creating a stock adjustment record or by clicking the adjust stock button. So if I want to manually adjust this stock, I can click the adjust stock button. Since I'm on the product already, it's pulling in the product for me. And then I have two options for values to adjust. I can adjust the quantity in stock, and I can also adjust the defective stock. One reason for adjusting the defective stock would be a lot of the times, if you purchase a product from a vendor and it's damaged or broken, they might not want it back. So you wouldn't be creating a purchase return record. You would just be simply discarding those defective stock. So this is a good way to adjust that manually. To adjust it, you just want to select your value. And then if you would like to increase the stock, you could simply do plus and then a number. So we could increase it by 10, or we could do minus and a number to decrease it by 10. So once we mark this as approved and hit save, we're going to be adjusting the quantity in stock here. We can now see that our quantity in stock has dropped down to 90, and so has our available stock as well. The very last thing I'm going to show in this demo is going to be the stock reservation module. So let's go to the stock reservation module here from our main menu. And this is a great way to just basically, we're holding stock for our customers, right? So we're going to use our Ernie contact again with our Legends Forever. And a lot of times customers will come in and they're on the verge of buying, or they just need to get a final approval and they want to hold that product for a couple days just to make sure that you have it in your inventory for them when they're ready to purchase. So we can click on the reserve until up here. So if we just want to reserve it for one day, we could say, let's hold it for tomorrow, or we could select a week or further in the future as well. So when we mark the status as reserved and go down here to select our product, let's do the computer monitor again. And let's reserve a quantity of 10 and hit save. When we go back to our products here, we will see that our reserve stock, let me refresh one more time here. Our reserve stock has increased by 10 here. So right now, this should only be affecting your available stock when you have reserve stock, because technically you still have the quantity in stock. This is something that our developers are going to straighten out shortly. So in the future, we can see it affected both, but in the future, we are going to see just the available stock drop once we have reserve stock, and our quantity in stock will remain the same. If we go back to that stock reservation record, I want to show you a couple of the options that we have. So this is the one that we just created. As Matthew pointed out in the slides earlier, this record is locked. And basically, we have the option to cancel this stock reservation, which will release the reserve stock back into our available stock. We also have the ordered option. So let's say you've already created a sales order for this product and you want to just release it. You can just click the order button if you've already had that created, or you can click the order and add sales order button. So this would be basically releasing the stock and allowing you to create a sales order at the same time. The other thing to just take note of is this reserve until. So if none of these actions are taken here, these products are going to be held until this date. Once this date passes, the products will automatically be released back into our available stock. So that wraps up my portion of the demo here. I hope everybody found that useful. I'm going to pass things back to Matthew for just another slide or two, and then we're going to go into our Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, I know that was kind of fast and furious, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'd love to help you out and clarify any doubts that you might have. So Matthew, it's all yours.
Thank you, Josh. Let me share my screen here one more time. And one thing I like to discuss in all the webinars we do is I like adding the slide in because we are an all-in-one CRM. So we cover a lot of different areas of a business within our one CRM software application. So what we showed today was just a portion of what's available in just our inventory application section of our software, but we go even further into sales management, project management, help desk marketing, and much, much more. So one, it's definitely worth looking into a few of those, but if there's also topics you want us to cover in future webinars, we're always looking for additional recommendations because we want to create content that you all find useful, beneficial, and just topics you want to touch upon and learn more about. So if you have any recommendations for us, please do share them. We always take them into consideration when we're creating content. Thank you all for joining. We will have the Q&A right after this, but I just want to touch on, if you have any additional questions or concerns or feedback to share with us after this webinar, you can always reach us at our live chat, which is available on our website and in the CRM itself. When you're logged in, you just click the question mark in the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see the live chat button in that pop-up. You can email us at support@vtiger.com or even call us directly at the phone numbers here down below. With that, let's jump into the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please share them now in the button you've been using throughout the webinar. We will try to answer some live as well. So if there are some you want us to show or go more into certain features, please ask away, or anything even beyond that. If you have any questions for us at all, please, now's the time. So the webinar will be available offline. This is recorded. We will be sending everyone that signed up a recording of the webinar directly through email. We will also be posting it onto our website and the webinar section. So Dean asks, is there a way to change the format of the screen? They've used an older version where the billing and shipping is side by side. Is that available? If you don't mind clarifying a little bit more on that question, what exactly do you mean by the format of the screen? Because some of this can be modified, some cannot. The standard where everything's showing up in the summary cannot be, but the location of the fields themselves can be to an extent in the records. Would you mind clarifying a bit more on that?
Yeah, Matthew, let me share my screen again, and I'll kind of show at least how you can
give
format
context.
a little bit further in the module layouts and fields. Let me share my screen one more time.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go into the invoices module here for a second. So I think what he's asking is in the detail section. Let's go to full detail view here. So this is what I think you're asking with the billing and shipping side by side, which it already is. But if we go to the back end, we can move around some fields to format it differently. So if you go to the settings page and go to module layouts and fields under module management, let's just go back to that invoices module. And let's go down to that block. So, I mean, a lot of these you can drag and drop to move them around. So, when we're looking at the detail view, our subject is going to be first, organization is going to be second, third, fourth, etc. But we can drag and drop to move these around. So if there's a specific order, or if there's some fields that you would like, up at the top, we can pull those up to the top just using the drag and drop functionality. I know that there's, some of my customers too there are some fields that cannot be deleted. They can be in the way if there's something that you're not using. So you can always pull those down to the bottom and pull more relevant fields up to the top. But yeah, if that doesn't answer your question, if you could clarify that a little bit further, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. And you mentioned sharing a screenshot with us. Our support team can always look more into your request and see if there's any customizations we can make on top of that, or ways we can fit what you're trying to accomplish. So if you send those into support@vtiger.com, our team can always help you out further from there. And we just don't have any way to handle screenshots in the webinar. So someone asked, is there an integration from the inventory add-on to the asset section? And so say they sell 10 laptops and this generates 10 assets under the relevant customer. Yeah, so this would still have to be partially a manual action. You can create really as many relationships as you need between modules. You can create a custom relationship between whichever module you want to within that's added through the inventory add-on to the assets module and create the assets through that process. That would be the quickest way, but there isn't a fully automated approach to that.
Yeah, we've got some good questions coming in, so keep them coming. There's no question too small or too big. So got another about 10 minutes here. So if we get some more questions, we'll keep this Q&A going. So we encourage you to ask any questions you may have. Yeah, so Dan, Pratim answered your question, but this is in the works. So I don't think we have an ETA for it yet, but it's something that we are working on currently. He asked if there's any plans to support multiple locations for inventory, and yes, there are plans.
So someone asked, will there be a webinar on bundles or any possibility of creating multiple warehouses? First, we actually have the multiple warehouse feature in the works. We don't have an ETA on that yet either, but that is in the works. And we do plan on having the ability to have multiple warehousing available in the CRM. For bundles, we could show that real quick in the system. Hope y'all can see my screen now. Is that showing up properly, Josh? Just to double check.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So in every product you create, you actually will have the product bundles will be available in that product directly. What you could also do is if you wanted to say create something brand new, so just call this just to keep it simple, I'll just call it a computer bundle. You can save that here. And what you can actually do once that's created, so we created this for the purpose of it being a bundle. In this product bundle section, you can just link existing products to it. So if we wanted to add in the computer monitor and say, could add one more and have that be the a speaker. So that way you have this bundle, and what you can do is you can add that directly into your invoice or purchase order, sales order as the bundle itself. You also have the option to add brand new products to this as well, so you can create the products directly from this page within this record. It will give you the total cost of the bundle, break it down for you on which one. Whoops. Oh, I actually switched to the. You can also edit these and say how many would you get. So if maybe this bundle has 2 monitors involved, you can update each one of those there or unlink them if you no longer want that in the bundle.
Yeah, I'm just going to read this out loud because Dan asked, we hope to use QuickBooks Online for general ledger. Does using this module, so I think the inventory add-on, perhaps make it possible to transfer less data and still get the financial statements updated through syncing. So yeah, as Pratim mentioned, we already have the QuickBooks Online integration, but still within that functionality, we're just going to be able to sync contacts, products and services data, vendor data, purchase order and payment data. So depending on, I think with the integration, I think with QuickBooks and Vtiger, you can create some custom fields and map those, but they have to be the same field type. But generally speaking, I think the functionality is going to be kind of the same as it was before. So just updating those specific records or syncing those records.
And with that, let's do one last call for questions before we wrap up. Does anyone have any last minute questions they want to ask here? We have a few minutes left. Okay. Well, with that, thank you all again for joining. We always love doing these webinars, being able to show off new features and old features within the system. We just got one more question coming in. Robert asks, is this new management system designed to work with QuickBooks? As we mentioned previously as well, so the QuickBooks integration will still work with the primary inventory modules, so like products, invoices, the ones that are currently built in with it, will still continue doing so. So it doesn't integrate as much with the QuickBooks integration. Yeah, thanks for the question, Robert. So yeah, thanks again everyone for joining. We love holding these webinars. Again, any recommendations you have, maybe we have one pop up in the future you want us to cover in a webinar, please reach out and let us know. We love recommendations and love creating content that everyone does find useful.
Yeah, and I just want to say, if anybody, if a question comes to you later regarding this, this inventory add-on or any feature, I just want to again recommend you can always visit help.vtiger.com. We have a plethora of information there, articles. There's documentation that our support team references as well when we're answering questions. So it's a really, really, great resource for all of your questions, from everything of, what is a module or what is a feature to how to use it and some use cases, et cetera. So I recommend checking that out. Also, if you have a question that's not answered by searching there, you can always, again, reach out to support@vtiger.com or use our live chat as well, where you'll be directed to our live chat agents. So we encourage you to take advantage of those resources.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks again once more for joining. I hope you all have a great morning, evening, or night, depending on where you're at, and hope you join our next webinar.
Yes, thank you everyone, and we hope to see you at the next one. We'll see you soon.